When my son told me I wouldn't be welcome at his house for Christmas, I smiled. Of course I did. Nothing says holiday spirit like being banned from the house you paid for. I got in my car, made a little phone call, the sort of call that, well, let's just say it wasn't the gift they were expecting come New Year. More on that later. Justice needed to be restored. Arrogance needed to be punished. And apparently, I was Santa Claus with a vendetta. I could make my famous turkey this year, I suggested, sinking into Michael's leather sofa, which, surprise, I also paid for. Stuffed with sage, just like his mom adored. She always said it beat her grandmother's. But no, forget family traditions. Isabella's vanilla candles are clearly more important. Vanilla candles that smell a lot like bankruptcy. Michael shifted beside me, his wedding ring glinting under their 12-foot Christmas tree. 12 feet. Because nothing says love like a tree taller than your father's patience. Then he said it. Dad, unfortunately, you won't be welcome here for Christmas. Oh, lovely. Exactly what every parent dreams of. He couldn't even look me in the eye. His stare was fixed on the marble coffee table, the one I'd helped him pick out, because obviously playing wood wasn't sophisticated enough for Isabella. Apparently, marble is great for holding wine glasses and breaking your father's heart. Her parents were coming, and they prefer I wasn't there. Prefer. Like I'm some side dish they don't fancy on the menu. It's just easier this way, he said. Easier. For him, maybe. His voice got smaller and smaller, like he wanted to disappear into the carpet. I looked around. Silk curtains me. Hardwood floors me again. Crown molding, credit card bills still haunting me. Every inch of that place screamed my sacrifice. And yet, somehow, I was a problem. In the kitchen, Isabella's brand new KitchenAid mixer sparkled. $2,000. Used twice. Which, coincidentally, is also the number of times Isabella has thanked me. Where will I spend Christmas then? I asked. My voice was quieter than I wanted. He mumbled something about Aunt Rosa, or maybe the weekend after. Because, of course, Christmas can be penciled in like a dentist appointment. I stood up, knees creaking from 8 years of carrying this family. Michael's face collapsed. Dad, wait. But I was already walking past the family photos where my face grew smaller in every frame, past Isabella's mountain of jackets, because God forbid she ever wears the same one twice. Hand on the doorknob, I said, tell Isabella's parents. I nearly stopped myself, but no, too late. Feliz Navidad. Petty? Absolutely. Worth it? Definitely. The December air smacked me in the face. Behind me, Michael called my name once. Then the soft click of the door, final, absolute. I sat in my truck, staring at the Christmas lights of houses where I'd never be welcome. My phone buzzed. Probably Michael, ready with his guilt-flavored apologies. I didn't answer. Instead, I turned the key and drove off into the darkness, leaving behind the glowing house I bought. The one I'll never belong in. The heater hummed as I drove through the December cold, past streets I knew too well. Every corner reminded me of the man I used to be, the idiot who believed family meant everything, who'd give his last pound just to see his son smile. That man's gone now. Good riddance. At the lights, I watched a young dad loading presents into his SUV. His kids were fogging up the windows with excitement. Once upon a time, that had been Michael and me, before Isabella, before I was demoted to walking ATM with inconvenient feelings. The numbers started rattling in my head like a broken slot machine. 2,800 pounds every month, 5 years straight. My calculator actually gave up on me last spring when I added it all up. 140,000 pounds. My entire retirement. Gone. Just gone. A Christmas miracle. Really? The light turned green. I hit the accelerator harder than necessary. The truck growled like it was angry on my behalf. 5th Street. That's where I refinanced my house. Sorry, our house, Maria's and mine, to cover Michael's down payment. I still remember the loan officer's pitying look. Mr. Flores, are you sure about this? You're putting a lot at risk for someone else's investment. Someone else's investment. Not my son's future. Not my family's security. No, apparently just someone else's investment. Lincoln Street. The bank where I took out a second mortgage after Michael lost his job. Just temporary, Dad. Just until I get back on my feet. Isabella had been right behind him, 700-pound purse on her arm, nodding sympathetically while calculating exactly how much my desperation was worth. Spoiler, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I pulled into my driveway, the one with the cracked concrete I couldn't afford to fix, because clearly every spare penny had to go into funding their suburban fantasy. My porch light flickered. Another repair I'd been putting off. The house was silent inside, hollow without Maria's laughter. Without her, it felt less like a home and more like a monument to poor decisions. Then my phone rang. Isabella's name flashed on the screen. Perfect. 5 years I've been waiting for this. I let it ring a few times, let her sweat a bit, then picked up. "Dennis," she purred, voice dripping with fake sweetness. The exact same tone she used whenever she wanted me to cover their bills. I heard about the little misunderstanding with Michael. Misunderstanding? I leaned on the kitchen counter, still in my coat. "I don't think there's been any misunderstanding. You made yourself very clear." "Well," she sighed, shopping bags rustling in the background. "You have to understand my parents' perspective. They're very traditional." "A certain atmosphere," I repeated. My patience was already hanging by a thread. Another pause. More rustling. No doubt spending money that should have gone towards a mortgage. My money, apparently. Well, they're not used to your kind of cooking. All that spicy Mexican food and loud music. And then the kicker. And frankly, Dennis, they're educated people. They expect conversations about current events, literature, art, you know. Ah, yes. Because clearly, I should have been serving up Shakespeare with a turkey all these years. Her words hit me harder than any punch could. 8 years I'd kept quiet. 8 years of swallowing her insults for Michael's sake. 8 years of pretending I didn't notice the way she looked at me like I was a hired help. My kind of cooking. I kept my voice steady. "You mean the food you ate every Sunday for 3 years when money was tight? The tamales you said reminded you of your grandmother? That was different. We were appreciative then. But now with my parents." "Ah, yes, her parents. God forbid the Mexican peasant embarrassed them at their fancy dinner table." Her sugar-coated voice snapped. "Don't be dramatic, Dennis. This isn't about race. It's about class. My father graduated summa cum laude. My mother speaks 4 languages. They summer in the Hamptons. What exactly would you contribute? Stories about laying tile." Heat surged through my chest, but I kept my voice cool. "I built a business from nothing after your husband's grandfather died. I've employed 50 people. Paid more in taxes than your father earned in his best year. Money isn't everything, Dennis. Breeding matters. Education matters. And frankly, Maria understood her place better than you do." Silence. She crossed a line I didn't even know existed. "What did you say about my wife?" "I'm just saying she blended in better. She didn't make waves. She knew some spaces weren't meant for her." My hand tightened on the phone until my knuckles went white. "Maria had more class in her little finger than your entire bloodline combined." "Oh, please. She was a cleaner who got lucky. At least she had the good sense to stay quiet about it. That was it. The voice that came out of me didn't even sound like mine. Listen carefully, Isabella. This conversation is over. We're done pretending to be family. You can't just... We're done." I hung up. The phone landed softly on the counter, my hand steady for the first time in years. The kitchen felt different. Smaller, but lighter too, as if even the walls were relieved I'd finally said it. I walked to my desk in the corner and pulled out the manila folder I'd been avoiding. Bank statements. Mortgage papers. 5 years of automatic transfers that bled me dry while they played house like royalty. Time to stop the bleeding. The papers spread across the table like evidence at a crime scene. 5 years of proof. Every 15th of the month. 2,800 pounds drained straight from me into them. My personal charity project. My stupidity itemized. I pulled out my calculator. Year 1, 33,600 pounds. Year 2, another 33,600 pounds. By year 3, I'd stop by myself new clothes. Year 4, I was shopping at discount grocers. Year 5, I was living off peanut butter sandwiches like a broke uni student. 143,400 pounds. Not counting the down payment. Not counting the bills I covered when Isabella's shopping emergencies struck. Not counting the roof, the landscaping, the essential furniture. I leaned back, staring until the numbers blurred. Maria's insurance, my retirement, the grandchildren's college fund. All gone. Poured into a house where I wasn't welcome to carve a turkey. But let's just say things were about to change. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the bank's number. Time for a little festive cheer. The automated voice gave me options in English and Spanish. How thoughtful. How inclusive. Pity real life isn't half as accommodating. Customer service. This is Jennifer. How can I help you today? I need to cancel an automatic transfer. I said. My voice was steadier than it had been in years. She was efficient, professional, and, most importantly, not judging the fact that a 62-year-old man was pulling the plug on what was, let's be honest, his son's mortgage. I see the transfer, Mr. Flores. 2,800 pounds a month to Wells Fargo. Account ending in 7423. How long have you been making this transfer? 5 years. The words tasted foul. And you like to cancel it effective immediately? I looked around my kitchen at the peeling paint, the leaky windows, the appliances that belonged in a museum. Meanwhile, I'd been paying for granite countertops and walk-in wardrobes in someone else's castle. Effective immediately, I said. Done. The transfer has been canceled. Anything else I can help you with today? No, I answered, and for the first time in years, that word felt good. I hung up. Silence filled the room. Outside, December darkness settled over Spokane. Christmas lights twinkled in houses where families were welcome without terms and conditions. For the first time in 5 years, next month's budget would actually balance. I could fix the porch light, buy proper groceries, maybe even take a holiday. Imagine that, me, on a beach instead of Isabella's payroll. I gathered the statements and mortgage papers, every receipt of my generosity, and carried them to the fireplace. A single match, and 5 years of martyrdom went up in flames. The warmth on my face was better than any Christmas present. My phone buzzed, probably Michael with a pitiful apology or Isabella needing cash for something essential, like designer cushions. I didn't even look. Instead, I poured myself a glass of the good whiskey, the one I'd been saving for a special occasion. Tonight qualified. I raised a glass toward Maria's photo on the mantle, to the man I used to be and the man I was becoming. Merry Christmas to me, I said, and I meant it. Morning came bright and crisp. Sunlight spilled through my windows as I enjoyed a second cup of proper Colombian coffee. Freedom tasted better than caffeine ever could. No calculator. No panic. Just peace. Then, at 10:47 sharp, my phone rang. Isabella, her name flashing like a hazard sign. Dennis, she snapped, already impatient. I need you to pick up my parents from Spokane Airport. Their flight arrives at 2. I set my mug down carefully, watching the steam curl upward. Isabella, did you forget our conversation yesterday? Whatever that was about, we need to focus on practical matters now. My parents need transport, and you're the only one free during the day. The audacity was breathtaking. Almost impressive. Almost. But let's just say she was about to learn how practical I could be. Less than a day after declaring I wasn't fit to sit at her Christmas table, Isabella decided I'd make a fine taxi driver for her parents. Touching, really. And you're asking me because I prodded. Because that's what family does, Dennis. They help each other. Her voice was sharp now, irritated that I hadn't leapt to attention. Then she added, besides, let's be honest, you're not my rival. You're too weak to be my rival. So just get in your truck and pick them up. There it was, the final insult, wrapped neatly in a command. What airline? I asked, my voice flat. Alaska Air, Flight 447. Baggage claim, carousel free. And Dennis, Make sure you handle their luggage properly. Don't embarrass us. I could hear her nails tapping against her granite countertop. Granite I paid for, back when laminate wasn't elegant enough for soirees. Of course, I said smoothly. I'll take care of everything. Good. And wear something decent. Maybe that blue shirt you wore to Michael's graduation. They notice things like that. Then, click. Line dead. No, thank you. Not even a fake one. I sat back, staring at the blank phone screen. Flight 447. Carousel 3. 2 o'clock. I glanced at the clock above my sink. 10:52 a.m. plenty of time. So, naturally, I poured myself another cup of coffee, added an extra spoonful of sugar, and opened yesterday's crossword. 7 across. Delayed gratification. 12 letters. The answer didn't come right away, but I had a feeling it would. By 2:15 p.m., I was comfortably settled in my favorite armchair, sipping Earl Grey and flipping to the Spokane Review. Crossword finished. The clue? Postponement. Fitting, really. My phone buzzed on the table. Isabella's name lit up. I let it ring. The December sun poured through my windows, warming the same space where I'd once counted the cost of my so-called generosity. Today, the silence felt different. Mine. Earned. At 2:47, another buzz. This time, I saw her text preview. Dad, where are you? My parents are. I flipped the phone face down and turned to the sports section. The Seahawks had lost again. No surprises there. By 3:30, she called 6 times. In that span, I'd finished the paper, brewed more tea, and even organized a junk drawer in my kitchen. Amazing what you can achieve when you're not playing chauffeur for people who think you're their butler. At 3:45, another call. A new number this time. Probably her parents borrowing a stranger's phone at the airport. I let it ring. 2. Outside, my neighbor was stringing up Christmas lights while his kids raced around the garden. Normal families. Normal days. Nobody stranded. Nobody waiting for someone who was never coming. By 4:15, the buzzing was relentless. Isabella. Then the unknown number. Then Isabella again. The phone rattled like an angry wasp trapped against glass. I walked over, unplugged the landline, and switched off my mobile. Perfect silence. Then I made myself a grilled cheese sandwich and a bowl of tomato soup. Proper comfort food. The cheese bubbled golden on the bread, and I realized it was the first time in months I'd let myself enjoy something that simple. Meanwhile, somewhere at Carousel 3, well, let's just say things weren't quite so golden. The soup was steaming in my favorite mug, and life, briefly, felt civilized. Outside, the winter sun dipped low, stretching long shadows across the garden. Somewhere across town, 3 very entitled people were probably still in an airport car park, arguing over taxi fares, wondering how their unpaid butler had dared to abandon them. The thought made my soup taste even better. By 5 p.m., I'd eaten, run the dishwasher, and was debating what film to watch. Imagine that, an evening to myself, no emergency money calls, no last-minute errands. Just peace. Naturally, it didn't last. The pounding on my front door started suddenly, loud, aggressive, the sort of hammering that made the frame shake and practically screamed. We're furious and also rude. I set down my tea, walked slowly to the door, already knowing exactly which circus had rolled into town. Through the peephole, 3 figures crammed on my porch, glaring like wolves who'd missed dinner. I opened it, and Cody Jenkins' red face was practically steaming in mine. What the hell is wrong with you? He barked, shoving past me without so much as a hello. Charming. Catherine trailed behind, hair messy, lips pursed like she'd bitten a lemon. This is unacceptable, Dennis. Barbaric, she snapped. And then Isabella, her designer coat crease, mascara smudged, face twisted in fury. You humiliated us. My parents had to take a $40 taxi because you... I cut through their combine, shrieking like a knife through butter. Calm. Cold. Get out of my house. That silenced them. For a second, Cody's face went from red to a lovely shade of purple. You don't get to make demands here. Buddy, not after today. This is my house, I said quietly, still by the door. And I want you out. Catherine stepped forward, voice dripping with superiority. She must have been practicing her whole life. Dennis, you don't understand the magnitude of your mistake. My husband has connections. Yes, Catherine. I interrupted, holding her gaze. And this was a lesson about arrogance, about how you treat people you think are beneath you. Isabella's jaw dropped. A lesson? Who do you think you are? Someone who finally stopped being your personal bank account and taxi service. I swung the door open wider. Lessons over. Out! Cody jabbed a finger near my chest but didn't quite touch me. Brave, but not that brave. You've no idea who you're messing with. Old man, I know people, important people, people who can make your life very, very difficult. Is that a threat, Mr. Jenkins? I asked. No, he hissed. It's a promise. Abandoning elderly people at an airport? Actions have consequences. Catherine smirked. Sharp enough to cut glass. Indeed, Dennis. Very public consequences. Isabella tugged his arm. Daddy, let's just go. He's pathetic. They marched out like a defeated army, though Cody paused at the threshold, turning back with one last look that said this wasn't finished. And, well, let's just say he was half right. You'll regret this, Cody snarled, like a budget movie villain. I guarantee it. I closed the door on his dramatic exit and turned the deadbolt with the most satisfying click of my life. Through the window, I watched them pile into their rental car, still arguing like toddlers fighting over crayons. Off they went into the December night, and honestly, the house felt lighter the second they were gone, like I just fumigated 3 particularly loud pests. Of course, their parting words still rang in my head. Public consequences, important people, connections. Oh yes, the holy trinity of the self-important. For half a second, I wondered if I should be worried. Then again, anticipation was a much tastier feeling. 3 days later, coffee in hand, I opened the spoken review and nearly spat Colombian roast across the kitchen. There was my face grinning at me from page 3, 5 years younger and at least 2 chins lighter. The headline? Spoken businessman abandons elderly couple at airport during holiday storm. A storm? It had been 52 degrees and sunny. You could have barbecued. I read the article once. Twice. By the third time, I'd stopped being shocked and started being impressed. Cody and Catherine Jenkins, apparently in their late 50s, how generous, had painted themselves as frail, trembling pensioners, stranded in blizzard conditions that existed only in Cody's imagination. For hours abandoned, left to fend to themselves, forced into a $40 taxi. The horror. No mention of Isabella's royal decrees. No mention of the years of me bankrolling their empire of bad taste. Just me, cast as a cruel old man who snapped. Honestly, they made me sound like the villain in a Hallmark Christmas special. And then, my favorite part, quotes about my erratic behavior and unstable mental state. Oh, yes. Apparently, I was now Spokane's very own Mad Scrooge. Charming. The byline? Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor. Never heard of her, but I recognize a move. Cody had called in favors, pulled strings, and played dirty. Clever. Infuriating, but clever. For the first time, I felt a flicker of respect. They weren't just spoilt children stomping around in designer shoes. They were calculating, strategic, and they just declared war. I folded the paper neatly, placed it on the table, and turned on my laptop. Enough plain defense. This wasn't about Christmas dinner anymore, or even mortgage payments. This was about winning. Names went into the search bar. Cody Jenkins, Catherine Jenkins, Isabella Flores. Their socials, their friends, their habits, their weaknesses, everything they'd carelessly shared with the world. And let's just say, I was about to put their oversharing to very, very good use. If they wanted to play chess, fine. I'd show them what it looks like when the other player actually knows the rules. I glanced at my wall calendar. December 18th. 7 days until Christmas. 7 days to plan something unforgettable. And no, not in the warm family memory way. For the next 3 days, I didn't live as Dennis Flores, The washed-up old man everyone thought they could milk dry. Oh no, I lived as Dennis Flores, businessman. The bloke who built something from scratch and wasn't about to let a bunch of freeloading parasites ruin 40 years of sweat and broken backs. My laptop became mission control. Tabs everywhere like a Vegas blackjack table stacked with losing hands. Only this time, the losers weren't me. Cody Jenkins, retired bank manager, country club member, treasurer of the Inland Northwest Business Leaders Association. Basically, a man whose entire reputation screamed, "Please, do not let any dirt surface." A man with plenty to lose. Delicious. Catherine, on the other hand, had an Instagram feed straight out of How to Pretend You're Rich 101. Charity luncheons, wine tastings, holiday snaps with captions like #BlessLife. Every photo meticulously curated, as though her entire existence was a magazine spread. Of course, it was all financed with other people's wallets, mine included. And then Isabella. Her Facebook was practically a shrine to my generosity. Posts showing off our beautiful home with gleaming shots of the kitchen I paid for. Check-ins at posh restaurants during the exact months I've been covering their utility bills. Oh, and my personal favorite, a status from last week. So excited for Christmas dinner with family. Can't wait to show off our hosting skills. Our hosting skills. Our home. Our success. The audacity was breathtaking. But the real kicker? Michael's LinkedIn profile. There it was, a brand new connection. Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor. The same Patricia Morrison who'd written that little smear piece about me. Suddenly, the puzzle snapped together. They hadn't just lucked into that article, they'd planted it. Cody had reached out to his business friends, called in favors, pulled strings. How quaint. They'd made 3 fatal errors. 1, they underestimated me. 2, they dragged the circus into the public eye. And 3, my personal favorite, they documented their entire hypocrisy online. A buffet of evidence, served on silver platters. I clicked on Patricia Morrison's profile. Journalism degree. 15 years in local papers. 0 ties to banking. Which meant Cody had gone out his way to drag her into this. A quick business directory search later, and bingo, 3 mutual connections with her editor. It wasn't reporting. It was PR with lipstick on. Pathetic. I opened a fresh document. Not a whiny rebuttal. Something better. A timeline. Every sacrifice. Every transfer. Every bleeding penny I'd thrown into their perfect suburban fantasy. House down payment. $47,000. Ripped straight from my home equity loan. Granite countertops. Because laminate was apparently barbaric. $18,000. 60 mortgage payments at $2,800 each. $168,000. Altogether, $250,000. More than I'd ever spent on myself in the last 10 years. Maria's savings, my retirement, the grandkids' future, all funneled into a house where I wasn't even allowed to eat turkey. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Probably Isabella. Trying new disguise. I ignored it. By evening, everything was neatly stacked into a manila folder thick enough to choke a horse. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was when the game really began. Bank statements, receipts, screenshots from their oh-so-perfect social media, all neatly printed and spread out like I was preparing for the trial of the century. The newspaper article sat on top, my red pen commentary scrawled across the margins like a teacher grading lies. False. Conveniently missing 5 years of my generosity. Honestly, I should have been paid for the editing work. On my wall calendar, December 24th was circled, not because of Christmas cheer, but because it was a perfect date for poetic justice. According to Isabella's Facebook, they were hosting Christmas dinner for 12. Friends, neighbors, people who religiously read the spoken review, the same people currently convinced I was some unhinged old Scrooge. Well, tonight, they were in for a dinner show. I dusted off my good camera, bought it years ago to document job sites, now redeployed for more entertaining evidence. The downfall of my in-laws, call it career pivot. Christmas Eve morning arrived, gray and cold. Perfect weather for vengeance. I laid everything out with the precision of a solicitor who'd had just about enough. Bank statements highlighted in yellow like schoolwork. Receipts stacked chronologically, each one screaming you're welcome. Photos of Isabella's jewelry, their luxury holidays, and those ridiculous Christmas decorations I'd effectively funded. 12 neat piles, one for each dinner guest. Party favors with teeth. On top of each stack, the newspaper article, annotated in red pen. Winter storm, absolute nonsense. Erratic behavior, missing context. Honestly, if this didn't win awards for presentation, I'd be shocked. I dressed in my best Navy suit, the one I'd worn to Maria's funeral. Fitting, since tonight I'd be bearing what was left of my reputation as a family doormat. By 6:30, briefcase packed, I drove to Kendall Yards. Their house glowed like a Christmas advert. Cars everywhere, laughter spilling from the dining room. Through the window, I spotted Isabella swanning about, glass in hand, playing hostess in a home I practically bankrolled. Perfect timing. 6:45. They'd be deep into dinner. Too early to leave. Too late to fake a headache. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. Isabella loved bragging about how safe their neighborhood was, unlike the riffraff areas. Well, safe until I turned up with a briefcase full of truth bombs. I stepped inside. Warmth, laughter, the scent of expensive food, and the overwhelming irony of being shut out of the family I'd financed. From the dining room came Catherine's voice, sharp as ever. But darling, that's not how we do things in our family. Our family. Right. I walked in, set my briefcase on their marble sideboard, and felt 12 pairs of eyes snap toward me like I was the ghost of Christmas past. Isabella froze mid-sip, Michael drained the color, and Cody looked as if he'd seen the tax man. Good evening, everyone, I said, calm as anything. I do hope you don't mind me joining your Christmas celebration. The silence was glorious. And then inevitably, Isabella found her voice. Dennis, this is completely inappropriate. You need to leave immediately. Ah, yes, the warm family welcome. Exactly what I'd expected. I opened my briefcase, pulled out the first stack of papers, and smiled. Actually, I said, I think your guests deserve to know who's really paying for this dinner and this house and this whole champagne lifestyle you've been parading around. A woman I didn't recognize, probably one of Catherine's charity luncheon buddies, leaned in, eyes sparkling with curiosity. What's he talking about? He's having some sort of episode, Isabella snapped, her voice wobbling. Michael, call someone. Bless her, always quick with the damage control. Unfortunately for her, I'd already started my little delivery service, dropping packets of documents in front of each guest like party favors would bite. Here you go, I said casually. 5 years of bank records, $168,000 in mortgage payments, plus the down payment, renovations, furniture, kitchen gadgets, basically everything you're sitting on, eating off, or admiring. The room went dead silent, except for the sound of rustling paper. 12 pairs of eyes scanned through my life savings, neatly itemized for their horror. Faces shifted from curiosity to shock faster than you can say foreclosure. This is... One man started, then stopped. Outrageous, finished a woman across the table. Isabella, why didn't you tell us any of this? Isabella's perfect composure began cracking like a cheap wine glass. It's more complicated than it looks. Dennis volunteered to help us. We never asked. Actually, I cut in, sliding out another stack. Let's talk about what you did ask for, and what you told the media about me. That did it. The whole room dropped 10 degrees. I laid copies of the newspaper article on the table. The same one with my unflattering photo, and their very flattering lies. Now, I said, loud enough to reach every corner of the dining room. Let's talk about the real manipulators here. Cody's face had gone from banker red to ghost white. Catherine sat frozen, wine glass limp in her hand like she'd just seen the tax bill. Mr. Jenkins here, I continued, tapping the article, used his banking pals to plant this little masterpiece. Notice how I'm portrayed as unstable, dangerous, abandoning the poor elderly in a snowstorm. A gray-haired man in a cashmere sweater looked up. Cody, what is this? The weather, I said before Cody could spin, was 52 degrees and sunny, and they weren't stranded tourists. They were Isabella's parents, headed to the Christmas dinner I was banned from because, apparently, I wasn't good enough. Catherine finally found her tongue. That's not, we never said. You never said what, Catherine? I pulled out my phone, lit up with screenshots of Isabella's little Facebook gems. That my food was too, what was it, low class. That my working class chatter would embarrass you in front of your cultured friends. Sound familiar? One of Catherine's charity pals shifted uncomfortably, suddenly finding her wine glass fascinating. He's twisting everything. Cody blustered, but his voice sounded like it had left the building. This man has serious mental health issues. Stress, financial problems. Financial problems? I nearly laughed. Mr. Jenkins, I've been shoveling nearly $3,000 a month into your daughter's household for 5 years. The only financial problems in this room are the ones you're about to have. I turned to the table, voice steady, sharp. These people have bled $200,000 out of me, while calling me names behind my back. And just like that, dinner was officially ruined. They manipulated my son against me, banned me from family gatherings, and when I finally grew a backbone, they tried to bury me in the newspaper. Michael finally spoke, voice barely louder than a cough. Dad, I didn't know about the newspaper. Oh, but your wife knew, I said softly, and her parents orchestrated the whole thing. I was a villain because I refused to be their personal ATM and chauffeur. Tragic, isn't it? The social dynamic at that table shifted faster than cheap foundation in the rain. I saw in their faces, the penny dropping, the disgust spreading. All those carefully polished lies beginning to rot in front of their eyes. This is unconscionable, said an elderly woman in pearls, glaring at the bank statements. Cody, how could you let your daughter exploit this man's generosity, then attack him for stopping? Cody's mask cracked. You don't understand the full situation. I understand perfectly, she snapped. This man supported your family while you treated him like the gardener, and when he stopped, you tried to assassinate his character. Ouch! Right between Cody's neatly tailored ribs. Catherine's voice came out strangled. He abandoned us at the airport. Yes, I said evenly, after you told me I wasn't welcome at Christmas dinner because I might embarrass your parents. This was after 5 years of paying your bills, while you sneer at me for not being posh enough. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. 12 guests staring at Cody and Catherine like they just found out their wine was from a supermarket clearance bin. Isabella made one last desperate lunge. Everyone, please. This is just a family matter that's gotten out of hand. No, I said firmly. It stopped being a family matter when you dragged it into the newspaper. When you decided my reputation was acceptable collateral damage for your pride. I looked around the table at strangers who now knew exactly who I was. I wanted you all to hear the truth before you read about Dennis Flores in the paper again, because you will read about me again. But next time, it'll be the real story. I closed my briefcase, straightened my tie, and gave them a final nod. Enjoy the rest of your dinner. It's the last one I'll ever pay for. As I walked out, the room erupted, voices raised, questions flying, years of fakery collapsing like a bad souffle. To me, it was the most beautiful Christmas music I'd ever heard. Fast forward to March. A Tuesday morning, sunshine, birds chirping. The postman handed me a certified envelope heavy with legal doom. Notice of default. Final demand for payment. Inside, 3 missed mortgage payments. $8,400 overdue. 14 days to pay up or say hello to foreclosure on the house I practically gift wrapped for them. I set the letter down, took a sip of coffee and thought, fascinating, but not my problem anymore. The phone had been ringing for weeks with Isabella's increasingly desperate attempts. Her number was blocked after the first hysterical voicemail. Cody and Catherine? Oh! They'd gone radio silent too. Their spoken social standing had evaporated quicker than morning mist after their Christmas dinner humiliation. Honestly, poetic justice tastes better than any Christmas pudding. Even Michael eventually broke the silence. I've been ignoring his calls, partly out of anger, mostly to see how long it would take him to choke on his pride. Turns out the magic number was 97 days. He knocked on my door that Thursday evening, looking less like the golden boy who banned me from Christmas dinner, and more like a man who'd aged a decade in 3 months. Dark circles, crumpled suit, desperation hanging off him like knockoff cologne. "Dad," he croaked, "we need to talk." I stepped aside, mostly curious to see how far this humiliation tour was going to go. He looked around my house as if he'd never seen it before. The new furniture, the fresh paint, the little repairs I'd finally afforded since I stopped bankrolling his lifestyle. "Nice place," he muttered. "Yes," I said. "That's what happens when you spend money on yourself instead of people who treat you like dirt." I sank into my recliner. "Coffee." He shook his head, perching on the edge of the sofa like a schoolboy waiting for detention to start. "Dad," he began, voice cracking, "I need you to know how sorry I am. About everything. Christmas. The newspaper. Isabella. The way we treated you." I raised an eyebrow. "Go on." I didn't know about Cody planning that story. I swear I didn't. When I found out, he scrubbed his face with both hands. "Jesus, Dad. The things they said about you behind your back. About our family. About Mom." My jaw tightened at Maria's name, but I kept my voice calm. "And what exactly did they say about your mother?" "That she knew her place better than you. That she understood boundaries. They couldn't even meet my eyes. You should have defended her," I said flatly. "You should have defended me." "I know," he whispered. "I should have. I should have done it years ago." We sat in silence, the kind that drips with 5 years of failure. Outside, I could hear my neighbor mowing his lawn. Normal families, normal evenings. Sons who didn't exile their fathers over Christmas turkey. Finally, Michael cracked. "The house is in foreclosure." "I know. We can't make the payments without—" He stopped mid-sentence, finally realizing how pathetic it sounded. "Without my help," I finished. "Without the money I bled out every month while you let your wife's family treat me like hired help." I leaned forward. "Do you know how much money I sent you over 5 years?" He nodded miserably. "Isabella added it up after Christmas. Over $200,000. Pound 237 for 68. I corrected. "I know, because I finally did something smart. I added it up. Every single penny." His face collapsed like wet cardboard. "Dad, I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix this." "You can't," I said. "The money's gone. But worse than that, the years are gone. 5 years when I could have had a son, not a bill." "I know," he whispered. "But maybe we could start over. Maybe there's a way." I gave him a long look. "Are you asking me to resume the mortgage payments?" The flicker of hope in his eyes died instantly. "We're gonna lose everything, Dad. The house. Isabella's respect. Her parents' approval. I don't know what I'll do." "You'll figure it out," I said, not unkindly. "The same way I figured out how to live without a son who respected me." He started to cry then. Quietly, not the heroic Hollywood sobs. Just a pathetic leak of a man who'd finally realized the free ride was over. "I lost you, didn't I? I chose him over you, and now I've lost you forever." I looked at him for a long moment. This was my son, the one I'd raised, loved, sacrificed for, and who let his wife's family convince him I wasn't fit for Christmas dinner. "No, Michael," I said, "you didn't lose me. You gave me away. Big difference." He wiped his face like a schoolboy caught lying. "Is there any chance you could forgive me?" "I forgave you a month ago," I said, "and I actually meant it. But forgiveness doesn't mean hitting reset. It doesn't mean I'm going back to funding a lifestyle where my reward was being treated like the gardener who overstayed his welcome." "Then what does it mean?" he asked. I walked over to the mantel. Maria's photo sat there as always, and beside it, a new one, me with Rose and her family at Easter dinner. The first holiday I'd spent with people who actually wanted me there. Revolutionary, I know. It means, Michael, that if you want a relationship with me, you'll have to build it from scratch. It means showing me respect without me earning it like a dog trick. And it means that the next time someone, your wife or parents, whoever, tries to exclude me, You'll remember who actually behaves like family." He nodded slowly, finally clocking that respect isn't a given, it's rented, and the payments are due monthly. "And the house?" he asked, voice low. "Not my problem anymore," I said, sitting back down. I felt lighter than I had in years. "You're a grown man. Figure out. Get a job that covers your bills. Sell the palace, and buy something you can actually afford." Radical concept, I know, living within your means. He stood a little straighter now, like someone who just remembered he had a spine. "You're right about all of it," he said. "I know." At the door, he turned. "Dad, for what it's worth, when you stood up for yourself at Christmas dinner, I was proud of you. Embarrassed, furious, but proud." "Good," I said. "Maybe there's hope for you yet." After he left, I poured myself a glass of the good whiskey, the one I no longer needed to save for special occasions that never came, and stepped out onto the porch. Spring was finally arriving in Spokane. Trees budding, air warming, new life, new beginnings. In 4 months, I'd be 63. Maria had been gone 8 years. I'd wasted 5 of those years as a doormat for people who didn't deserve the mud off my boots. I wasn't wasting another. My phone buzzed. A text from Rosa. "Dinner Sunday. The kids want to show you their school projects." I smiled. Wouldn't miss it. Because real family, it turned out, wasn't about blood. It was about people who actually wanted you at the table. Everything else? Just expensive theater. And I was done paying for tickets to shows where I wasn't even allowed on stage. The whiskey tasted like freedom. And the future? It looked exactly as bright as I was willing to make it.